With Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison. For those of you who can like motorcycles, you can see how I ended up a motorcyclist. There's a picture of a young fella there on a little motorbike, and that's me. I don't do ministry anymore. The call went off my life and I sensed it and accepted it, and was humble enough to go, I'm not an asset directly and specifically in the ministry anymore. But I went on to help people as best I could, and still do today. How important is your relationship to you? To what level are you prepared to turn up? In what ways are you prepared to make sure your relationship lasts? And how far are you prepared to go to adjust without losing your values or your identity, to play a part in the relationship for everyone to work, everyone being you and the partner? Let's get this straight. A relationship's two people, not three, not four, not five, not six, it's two. And everything needs to be private between those two. You need to come back to where you have that privacy, that sanctity, that intimacy. That's what makes a relationship flourish. And without that, things begin to go awry, because the energy starts to disperse into areas that it shouldn't. And the person that you're with will start to sense a loss in energy. Where's that energy going? That's where insecurities can come in, and questions and challenges can come in. And that's where people in the relationship bring trouble on themselves. Why be in a relationship if you're not going to play a full and wholesome part, a full and complete role? Nobody wants to experience stress. Nobody wants to experience down. That's not the object of a relationship. But we have to be fair to one another, and be aware that there's no promises when a relationship begins, and you have to be mature enough to accept that. You have to be mature enough to accept that the relationship might not evolve the way you would like it to, or the way you would expect it to. And you have to be able to go, oh well, that's all there is to it. There's no point being bitter or angry or upset, or frustrated or anything like that. Frustration and these type of things are probably usually what brought the relationship to an end. But it's like an elastic stretching. Once you've decided that that's it, that's the breaking of the elastic, and things begin to repair. Things have a chance now to heal. And healing takes time. It doesn't matter if you've been with that person for a while, a short time or a long time. Healing is going to have to take place, and healing takes time. But I believe that you should not lose your identity in a relationship. I always say to the ladies that I'm with, don't get to the end of the relationship and go away saying, oh, I've got time to find myself now. I don't put people in a position where they really should be losing themselves. I don't lose myself, but I still present myself as well as I can and as richly as I can for that person. Problem is, people don't know really how to deal with relationships at a healthy level. They say not to be codependent, not to overpossess, to try and find a way to create distance and have distance. And they build the relationship on the wrong principles, on the wrong idealisms. A relationship's about interdependency. That's interdependency. Working with somebody else in mind, spirit, soul and body in a way in which doesn't manipulate or control, allows that person to flourish as an individual and reap the benefits of being co-joined with somebody that believes in and gives assistance to the life that which they want to live inside the integrity, honesty and transparency of the relationship. But once secrecy comes in, once the lack of transparency comes in, once other people start to infiltrate the relationship with their idealisms and things that reduce the privacy of it and the intimacy of it, guaranteed the energy of that is going to start to dissolve the fabrics and the fibres, the trust and the security of which the relationship's built on. Look, no matter what way you look at it, a relationship's going to take work. And when you get older, you should be wiser and should know from life experiences that that work is worth putting in. If you want to get back out what you're desiring to get back out, some people really, seems to me, aren't sure of what they want. They try and juggle dysfunction with a realm that's asking for co-mutual fucking health. And people start to break down emotionally and start to undermine the relationship emotionally. And that's where all the trouble starts. Trust begins to deplete. The energy in the relationship begins to weaken. The attraction begins to wane. And then it comes to a question of resolve. Are we going to be willing to resolve whatever these issues are? Or are we going to just let things go on as if there are no problems at all? And I have to say the second seems to be more favourable in today's society. People come into relationships making out they've got every good intention to make the relationship work. And that all sounds good until an extra effort needs to be made mid-relationship or post-early relationship when the teething stages begin and things have to start to be weeded out and aligned. That can be challenging for some people. So challenging actually that a lot of people aren't willing to go through with it. So now we've got people in union, soul-tied, with all the initial words and promises that have been said at the start, only to now be representing themselves as something else, undermining the things that they said they stood for at the start, and therefore causing an element of confusion, a lack of trust, a lack of resolve, and a lack of care for the integrity and the time that's all gone into the relationship. And to be honest, that person needs to be measured for their performance, the way in which they're behaving. Have they stuck with what they've said, etc., etc. So what's the gist of it all when it comes to relationships? I think at the end of it, it all boils down to honesty and integrity. Not in the short term, but in the long term. You see, anybody can make short-term promises. Anybody can do that. It's what your performance is over the long term relative to what you're receiving from the other person, and whether or not that deserves longevity. A performance that will span over time, over duration. And of course, it's obvious that the better our performance on a day-to-day basis, the longer the relationship's going to last. Everything comes down to our daily performance. We can make all the promises at the beginning, but that's not going to guarantee a positive outcome over a long-term period. That all comes down to character, value, again, performance, understanding, transparency, all the characteristics opposite to the micro incremental characteristics of dark empath behaviour. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness and self-control in the form of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. But the fruits of the Holy Spirit, as social as they are, integrated into what people want, usually can't be obtained unless there is some kind of connection with God through Christ, because it's a spiritual, they're sustained spiritually. Fallen human nature has a way of undermining these fruits that we want in our life. And of course, a tree is judged by its fruit. A person is judged by the fruit. And that's whether we like it or not. we will be held accountable for the way we perform in our relationship. That's why there's divorces and split-ups all the time. This brings us to the principles of resolve and unresolved. A willingness to fix things that are going to cripple, vandalise, harass or undermine our relationship. And relationship vandalisation or assault today is more common than before, because people have so many options now that they can turn to besides resolve to escape the answer to the problem. And what happens is these people become less in character and personality. They weaken their character and personality rather than strengthening it. And that's a big problem, that's a big issue, because the further down that rabbit hole you go, the weaker you become. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up ran through, used, left behind and alone with pets, reptiles, and other excuses that cover up their weakness. Now, you might run into one of these people and they'll throw every card on the table that they've got at the start. But the problem is, as time goes by, what we are underneath will resurface. And some people think solving the problem is avoiding the problem, but it's not. Problems have got a way of hanging around until we get cornered and either have to resolve them or the relationships ends because of them. You can't play Russian roulette in the relationship with unresolved, because the trigger and the barrel will meet up and the relationship will go down the tube. And that's called a sunk investment. An investment of time, life, love and all the rest of it that was sabotaged by the person that put it in. And I have to say, dating sites are made up of these people that have sabotaging ways within their character, personality and resolve that sabotages them fucking nearly every time and brings them undone over and over again. But the problem with that is it doesn't just bring them undone, it wastes the time of the person that they're with, that they're involved with. And the hard part about that is anybody can, for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and possibly beyond that, hide how strong or weak they are characteristically until things start to arise. Now, things can be outside the relationship, attacking it from the outside in, as if the stuff that's going to come at it from the inside is not enough. And the hard part about that is this happens all the time. Triangulated relationships. Everything comes back to resolve. Everything. You get a religious person and they'll say God will fix this, God will fix that. But if you get a flat tire and you're not a member of the NRMA and you're all on your own and you can't change it, you're relying on delusion. And this happens with people in relationships. They're not willing to face what's up ahead. Look at it and go, is this something that I can put boundaries around, work in with, and have a healthy relationship? Or is this something that I'm just going to ignore until the relationship dissolves? And today, it's the second. That's why there's more and more people who are alone, who don't want to go into relationships, and who are scared that they're going to meet somebody that's just not going to follow through. That's the question, isn't it? Who's going to follow through? It's the minority. It's 5%. It's 5%. And the other 95 are either causing destruction or ending up on their own, as I said, with pets and things like this. Because pets apparently are easier until you got to clean up their shit and crap. That's funny, isn't it? A person will clean up the shit and mess of their pets but they won't resolve the simplest of issues with their partners. Just think for a minute how weak that is. Just think how weak that is when your value shifts into such a place that you're not prepared to mentally muscle up and enjoy the journey of solving problems and enjoying the intimacy that comes with that, with a human being in a relationship. Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. Bye for now.